would
Okay.
you say is your favorite experience from Morehouse?
Oh man, there were a whole lot of them. It was such a magical time in my life, and I'm going to be so honest and so earnest and to just simply say that. Um, I will say, graduation definitely was a big part of like what made that experience so wonderful. But I'll say that even more, the experiences of going through new student orientation as a freshman, getting brought into this community, getting brought into that sense of brotherhood, knowing that for the next 4 or so odd years, I was going to be a part of a family, something unique in the entirety of the world. Like that was just such a wonderful experience. And so I think overall, the overall sense of community was something that I cherished deeply. But new student orientation and graduation, the beginning and the end of the experience, those two bookends of just feeling like I'm going to be something, that's just such a wonderful kind of thing.
Mm. I'm sorry if I could ask you just a few more things. I realize
Yeah, yeah,
it'd be kind of remiss not to ask. What made you choose an HBCU as opposed to a PWI? You personally.
yeah. So the answer for that is pretty simple and straightforward. I went to a mostly white high school,
Mm.
and I had been in a mostly white middle school before that also. And, it was what it was. It was an interesting kind of experience, but I knew it had to be more to it than that. And I was really into history also at the time. And I really wanted to know more about like Black history. And I wanted to know more about African history. And I wanted to know more about, defining identity against prevailing notions of Eurocentrism. Like that's something I really wanted to push back against. And so I was like, okay, well, let me, what's going to be the best place for me to get that experience? So I said, what better place than where Martin Luther King went? So that was a big part of the thought process.
Wow. And so you chose Morehouse, or you targeted Morehouse, and then you were accepted, and so then that's where you ended up going. Was it a
Yeah.
crazy culture shock, considering what your middle school and high school had been?
Yes, and I'll tell you why exactly. And I have a very specific reason why. Um, as you might imagine, I'm a pretty nerdy guy. So I was big into anime as a kid or whatever, and like that was something that always made me feel like a lot of the white folks around me didn't really know exactly what to do with because stereotypes about what black guys are supposed to be, whatever it is now, it wasn't that earlier in the 21st century.
Hmm.
And so for me to really feel like, okay, well, I'm black. I do like to play sports, but I also really like this anime stuff. It felt super isolating
Hmm.
because even the other black folks at my high school, the couple, two, three of them that there were, they didn't really know what anyone have any desire to be any a part of that.
Hmm.
But when I got to Morehouse, and that wasn't just recognized, but that was celebrated. Like I was the cool kid because I came to Morehouse with the anime DVD collection. People wanted to borrow my DVDs. I was like, this is bizarre.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, having experiences also with my teammates on the track and field team where we would just like hang out and stream early episodes of Naruto or whatever, like that was a big part of that binding kind of moment. And I was just like, man, I feel so seen right now. And
Yeah.
that was one of the coolest things about the experience. So sorry.
No, that's
I'm I'm
great.
I'm
That's
waxing nostalgic, I suppose.
100%. But that, I mean, it's perfect. But listen, I'm very much a nerd myself, and
Eh,
I think you can, when you're surrounded by certain environments, where you get a lot of experiences with the what do you call them? I guess prejudices. You develop certain prejudices about what how black people are, and then you feel almost like isolated and like, oh, I'm different in some degree, right? And I think for me personally, I think, yeah, when I started encountering like variety of more black people as I got older, and but, besides my family, which I think all of us were pretty nerdy in certain ways.
mhm.
But I think, yeah, encountering that, I think it sort of, one, it normalizes you and humanizes yourself to some degree to say, hey, no, 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 this is part of the black experience. You know what I mean? As
Yeah.
opposed to feeling like this is an ostracizing experience. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I can imagine that being particularly gratifying. Um, yeah, that's awesome. Um, if you could do it all over again, would you choose PWI?
Oh no, definitely not. And I got a 4-year-old son right now, right?
Hmm.
And I didn't set out to do this, but it kind of was like he's like a fish in water, right? So I've got all kind of Morehouse stuff all over the house or whatever. So one point fairly recently, once my little boy got to the point where he could start talking really well, he said, "Daddy, when I grow up, I'm going to be a scientist at Morehouse College." Apropos of almost nothing, and I was like, "Okay, all right, I love it."
Man, that has to be the best feeling on the planet. I can only
Absolutely was.
imagine. And it's not even about, man, environment shapes young minds in so many ways that you're not even aware. They're just picking things up and normalizing
Yeah.
things. Um, I remember someone saying, this is a different topic, but it just I remember someone saying that it was a guy who was talking about divorce, and he said we just don't realize how much it impacts young people. And he mentioned a 6-year old who said, when I get married and I get divorced, I'm gonna pay my child support on time. And it's just like this is something he internalized from the negativity of his parents' relationship and the things that his mother was expressing and so on and so forth. And so in the same sense, I would imagine you being an educator, a teacher, and having, like you said, the paraphernalia around one, he already has it in his brain he's going to go to college at four
Exactly.
years old. That
Hmm.
impact is humongous. That means he's already like internalized the value of education. So that's huge. He wants to go to an HBCU. Another huge thing. You know what I mean? Just
Hmm.
I congratulate you. I know that had to have been one of the most validating and amazing experiences to see that. I think once you have children, they become the most important thing in the world, and that means you've already started
Yeah.
doing a fantastic job. So I salute you and appreciate you for that.